Hi, I am Dr. Sheila Sapp of Sheila Cares, and it really is a pleasure to be here to present part 2 of my book, The School Connection. I did a part 1 where I just briefly talked about the first 3 chapters, and today I want to just briefly mention some of the things that are covered in chapters 4 through 7. And if you listen to my part 1, then you will know that I am really big about parents and teachers and school leaders working together. We need to support each other. And when I wrote the chapters, whatever recommendations and tips and suggestions I have, I outlined a section for the parent, the teacher, as well as the building administrator or the school principal. One of the chapters, chapter 4, I talk about the roles. The role that a parent can play, the role that a teacher can play, as well as the school administrators. We all are so important in supporting children and youth. And the only way that we can empower children and ensure that they will have successful lives is if each of us do our part and work together. So I also talk about building relationships, and I have suggestions on how, as a parent, you can build a relationship with the classroom teacher, and also how, as a teacher, you can build a relationship with the parent. And then I do the same with the school administrator. There is no way that we can support each other without working together. In chapter 5, I talk about demystifying schools. Many of us think about schools based on our experiences growing up and what school was like for us then. And I must tell you, it is a lot different. And the things that we expect sometimes are not currently happening. Things have changed and time has changed. And if you're a grandparent or caregiver who is now involved with school with your grandchild, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Things are not the way they used to be. There are a lot of expectations, and sometimes some of our relationships are affected because we have different expectations and we don't always understand why there are certain rules or regulations and practices. So I spend time talking about some of those rules and practices to give parents a better understanding and grandparents of why there are certain rules and different requirements today. And I do want to say, if you think about your home, whether you're a homeschooler or your child attends a public school setting, all of us, even in our own homes, have different guidelines. We have different rules and different values that we expect our children to be exposed to, but also how we run our household. Well, the same applies to schools. So sometimes it's a matter of understanding the rationale behind some of those rules to help you get along and build a better relationship with the school and the classroom teacher. I also point out in chapter 7 ways that you can help foster and empower students. And I suggest some tools, things about the type of questions to ask during parent conferences and those expectations that I mentioned, something as simple as knowing how to communicate and understanding that there are lines of communication and who you need to contact if you're having some difficulties. And believe it or not, most teachers want to be contacted first if there's an issue or you have a question or a concern. And of course, if you're not satisfied as the parent, then your next step would be to see the school administrator. And if you're not satisfied at that level, then you want to see someone higher, like possibly the superintendent. But everyone wants to be respected. Just like you as a parent, if you had a neighbor that had an issue with something that happened in the neighborhood, you would want that parent to come to you first. So not only do I talk about lines of communication, but I mention other things in the book to help you as you not only communicate with different people in the school, but as you go through different levels, so that you will have a better experience, whether even if you homeschool, because there are some homeschoolers who use a hybrid model, and their children attend school for some classes, or they may attend school, a public school, 2 days or 3 days out of the week. So it's really good to have a clear understanding of the setting and maybe some of the procedures and policies that you will be expected to adhere to. And the final chapter of the book, chapter 7, I have specific games and activities that parents can implement at home to work with their children, to help build self-confidence and self-esteem and competence in different activities, how you can use chores to build competence, and how you can also establish rules that will help your children not only be respectful to you, but really feel good about themselves, and to help them grow into citizens that will be able to contribute positively to the world and our country. And the other thing that I want to mention to you is not only do I have games for parents and caregivers, but there are games that classroom teachers can implement. And also, there are activities and suggestions for school leaders to implement that will help them lead teachers and work with parents in empowering you. I have always been a proponent of parents and teachers working together. I've always valued the role that parents play and how they can contribute to the success of their child's education. So what I would like to see is all of us working together, hand in hand, and being true partners in the education of our children and youth. And if you have any other additional questions that you may be thinking about as you listen to this brief book talk, I want you to feel free to contact me, because I will have my contact information available. And maybe in the past you have had a not pleasant experience with schools. Well, I would just like you to think about that and give us another chance. And let's try to get on a better footing and really work together and support each other. And I just want you to realize and know that we as teachers and school leaders need you, and we value all of our parents and caregivers and our grandparents. And together, we can make sure no one is overlooked, that no one is lost. So with that, I just would like to conclude with my ending remark. I want to remind you to be safe, and don't forget that Sheila E. cares. And thank you for listening to part 2 of my book talk about the school connection. Parents, teachers, and school leaders empowering youth for life success.